artists and plenty artists, and this is what we see with these artists. They can't get free because of the labels that own them, as our brother Professor Griffin and others have so eloquently shared with you and explained to you regarding the Satan in the music industry and those that really own the music industry and control the music industry. And I've just been given on my Twitter, looks like the Reverend Harold Carter has died. Now, I'm sure there'll be plenty that'll be crying and moaning and groaning and talking about the death of Harold Carter, but all life has value in the scheme of it. We've lost 90 or more people in this city this year. Don't think many of you have stood up, shed a tear for them. And I'll be asking, what recent civil rights demonstration has he led, or any of those that are up there at Shiloh? What have they led, man? What? I remember we had a meeting up there for the Geno 6 and the young brother Gerard Mungo. But I ain't seen him lead nothing. I don't think he's led nothing. Don't think his son has led nothing. So that's the question we'll have to ask. Besides them big preacher meetings they be having up there, man. But that's besides them big Baptist preacher meetings they having. What else? And some eating going on and some greeting going on. I don't know of too much else that he's done, man. If I can just keep it real. And I say that out of love. But I know some of you personality worshipers and cult worshipers and idol worshipers, man. You taking some of your preachers as a God beside God. And some of you ministers, some of you Muslims do the same thing. Take your imams as God besides Allah. Some of you Jews do the same thing. Well, now you ain't gonna do that with the rabbi, because them gangster Jews not having that. They let you know who really run them things up there and in this city and in this town. You know what I'm saying is to be the truth, the gospel truth, or the Talmudic truth. You know what I'm saying is the truth. But we'll get into that perhaps tomorrow, of the death of Reverend Harold Carter. But I'll be asking, where has he been for the last, because a lot of them tell you some civil rights, they can romanticize civil rights movement, but you haven't seen them. You haven't seen the old one or the young one, the senior nor the junior. So we express our condolences. But as I said before, you lost over 90 people in the city this year. And all life has value, from the ministers to the sinisters in the city. And we'll come back to the lines if you want to get in on this conversation. 410-761-1592. You can get in on the conversation if you like, as we're looking at this trial of, again, AEG and the Jacksons versus AEG regarding the untimely death of Michael Jackson, or the conspiracy to kill Michael Jackson, as well as we look at the death of Michael Jackson. Again, you can get in on the conversation, 410-761, okay, thank you, 761-1592. You can get in where you fit in where you get in as well. It looks like we got another little piece of breaking news. This is the son of attorney Warren Brown, I believe, that's signed to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers football team. Well, good. I know he was a heck of a football player, I believe, at Temple, so at Rutgers, and we wish the young brother the best in terms of his career in the NFL. So, again, if you want to get in on the conversation as we're talking about this case of AEG and the Jackson family, you can get in where you fit in and fit in where you get in, or if you want to talk about your governor, showing that, again, 2 days after Memorial Day, as some of you having your leftovers that's been moved over, shifted over, and picked over, that he can move over on a black man, pick over on a black man, and find his friend, Jim Smith, and bring him into the governor's cabinet as the head of the Maryland Department of Transportation, or the secretary of the Department of Transportation. So it lets you see, when he wants to get rid of somebody down there, he can get rid of somebody, such as getting rid of course, Daryl Mobley, but he can't seem to get rid of, again, that albatross around his neck, the Secretary of Public Safety, old Gary Maynard. Can't get rid of Gary Maynard. He can't get rid of Mr. Bobo, Gary Maynard, with the head of the Public Corruption Department down there. But he could get rid of, again, Daryl Mobley, or perhaps they offer him a position somewhere else in the administration. You know how it's done, man. But again, he's run that Department of Transportation for the past year, since Miss Swain Staley left, or Stanley left. But yet, when the money comes in, now when they were running on a shoestring budget for the most part, then they gave it to the black man. And as soon as, of course, the heaven and the skies opened up, from the gas tax to now the infusion of federal funds, here comes Jim Smith, who's going to usher in this public-private partnership, which, again, when it's all over said and done, because there's no such thing as a public-private partnership, it's going to be a prostitute-pimp relationship regarding state employees and perhaps city employees and others that are working down at the Baltimore City waterfront, the Port of Baltimore, which, of course, had a record year. Probably outside them Royal Caribbean cruise ships, but outside of that, they had record cargo coming in at that port, record cargo going out of the port as well. And the question is going to have to be for the longshoremen down there. When the dust clears, will many of those brothers still have their positions down there? And that's a whole nother show when we look at, again, the issue of the Port of Baltimore and the longshoremen and the enormous amount of money that comes through the port. But not only that, when you're looking at the MTA, when you're looking at the MVA, when you're looking at the toll facilities and others that comes under the control of the Secretary of the Department of Transportation, and most of the news media, I think, haven't stopped to talk about that, because when you're talking about jobs, when you're talking about businesses, when you're talking about opportunities, then know that the Port of Baltimore is where a man could go without having a college degree, with having a GED, and perhaps not even with having a GED, and be able to make a living at the port. And know that when you read some of these historic books from Antero Patella, Not in My Neighborhood, and other books, they've talked about the riots, the revolts, the fights that would be taking place at the port between blacks and whites, because blacks understood the importance of being able to make a living at the port. Right now, it seems like you got some that don't want to fight. I know we got some powerful longshoremen unions down there, but the question is, who's fighting to make, again, the state of Maryland fair when it comes to blacks having their share in the state right now of the state economy and the enormous wealth that passes through the state of Maryland, from the forts to the ports, man. From the forts to the ports right now, when you look at, again, Maryland being one of the richest state, if not the richest state in the union. And who's fighting so to make sure that blacks get their fair share as others are coming in getting their fair share, and then some. But let me take one or two more calls, and then we're going to begin to wrap up the show today. Good afternoon, caller. You're on the State of the City. You lost me or I lost you. Give me a call back if you like, 410-761-1592. And again, breaking news, I believe the passing of Reverend Harold Carter, Senior, of New Shallow Baptist Church, as well as we're reporting on that, as other news outlets are reporting as well. And I don't know if he's been ill, but again, we express our condolences. When somebody say, well, Brother Muhammad, he was making mockery of the death of Harold Carter. I'm not making mockery, but what I am saying, if you're only concerned about other lives that are lost in this city as well as when you're concerned about his, then if you're not, then you're showing hypocrisy in terms of, again, not being concerned about all lives that's lost in the city of Baltimore, because God don't care about whether one wearing a collar or one has on a white tee. They all, of course, have to be a part of a legacy of dignity and wealth and worth in this society as well. So again, if you want to get in on the conversation, you can get in where you fit in where you get in, 410-761-1592. And of course, got to say this program note, man, please be careful in the heat this afternoon. It's been hot. Hazy, hot, humid, and of course, as I always say, in the city of Baltimore, and hazardous as well. If you're living in the city of Baltimore, that's the 4 H's: hazy, hot, humid, and hazardous, since we are number one when we look at murders in the country right now. So Baltimore is still number one. So be on the lookout for one another. Look out for our elderly out there that are in these homes. And sometimes, you know, the ventilation system in most of these homes in Baltimore City. And I don't know if your mayor and your city health commissioner have come on radio to tell you where these cooling centers are, where you can have access to the cooling centers, if they're even coming into your neighborhood to offer you a cool bottled water or a cool fan, when we know that many of the older homes in Baltimore City, such as the ones that they're rooting you up out of, or ethnic cleansing, as I see it from my perspective, in that Middle East Baltimore community, and John Hopkins coming in, reclaiming and retitling the neighborhood after they come in and ethnically cleanse blacks up out of that neighborhood and out of that area, and others are doing around this city as well. But are they even offering you a cool drink of water on a hot day like today as well as tomorrow? So if they won't, then we as men should be looking out for our women, looking out for our children, and looking out for our elderly as well in the city of Baltimore and in the state of Maryland. So we're going to begin to wrap up, get up out of here. But again, I would encourage many of you and plenty of you to stay up on the trial with what's going on in Los Angeles, California. Press your black media not to dumb you down and ask you about Kanye mess or Jay-Z, but ask about somebody who was probably the most philanthropic giver of charity in the entertainment industry, black, brown, red, yellow, and white, and the great Michael Jackson, as well as we'll be joined in a few days by the living legend, Bobby Dick Gregory, and go deeper into the trial, go deeper into the conspiracy to murder Michael Jackson, and of course, all of the fallout since then, and the cover-up in terms of others who have died since then. And I'm sure Paul Gagangawa will be watching his back. Otherwise, he won't be able to recall nothing when it's all over, said and done, when the dust clears, because you're talking $40 billion, which is nothing to sneeze at. So we had some technical difficulties. But we are going to wrap up, get up out of here, make way for the programming coming behind us. But we do need your support, so please make your checks, money orders payable to WFBR. WFBR, send it to 159 8th Avenue, Glen Burnie, Maryland, 21061, or do a righteous drive-by, place it in an envelope, and drop it off to Terra Cafe. Tell them it's for Brother Muhammad, and they'll make sure I receive it. So I thank all of you that tuned in. We will podcast the show on Spreaker, on Facebook, and on Twitter, and we expect to be back here tomorrow at 12 noon. So again, until then, we'll thank our sponsors. God bless. All the best, and the rest to you and yours. Peace.
Never